So a few days ago, did a deck build #1 video, and it was just the posts that were up. I went over how to measure them, how to square them, and today I'm going to go over how to get the ledgers up. The ledgers are these, and these outside ones that run all the way across to your posts, down the outside, cross over here, and through the middle. So the most important thing to consider is sizing your joists and your ledgers. So get an idea for how big you want your deck. In this case, it's 18 feet from here to there, and it's 30 feet, or just under, from here to there. So if you check online, they have charts that show you how big your 2x should be for how big the span is going to be. The span is basically how far something extends, a 2x, without being supported. So we have a support here, we have support there. Now the span here is about 9 feet. So you check your chart online and it will tell you a 2x8 Douglas fir, or I think southern pine, is about 9 foot 11 inches, if I remember correctly, is about the max for a 2x8. Here we have just under 9 feet. So it works out perfect. The second thing to consider is what type of wood. Now normally I would have run the treated wood that we have as a center beam here. And on the front, I would have used treated wood for both sides, over here and over there, and for all the joists. Now, unfortunately, we couldn't because Lowe's and Home Depot are having supply chain issues, so they didn't have it. So what we did was just we made sure that none of the non-treated wood is actually touching the ground, and then any exposed parts when the deck is done will get a weather-resistant paint. Now, the downside is, depending on weather, it may only last a few years, up to maybe 7 to 10. So you have to refinish them. So that kind of sucks. But we got to deal with the supply chain issues. So in the next video, I'm going to go ahead and show the hardware, and down at the end there, show you the method I used for having to do it myself to install the joists. So the hardware and tool portion, we'll go over specifically what we used on this deck. We have a 15 gauge nail gun, a 21 degree 16 penny nail gun, these timber lock screws which replace carriage bolts, 6-inch, 8-inch which we won't use until we put in the roof, the 4-inch that we use for these connections here into the posts, corners, and these 2.5-inch galvanized screws, which we used to attach to these hangers. They have to be galvanized because if you were to use regular nails, they'll rust and they'll rot the wood and they'll break, and you'll get sagging in the deck. Lastly, for the center beams, we use these things, which are pretty cool. I've never seen them before. But they replace 1/2-inch and 3/8 carriage bolts. We use those for the center beams and for the corners to prevent sagging. Now, if you do not have a nail gun, a drill will work just fine. The only difference is screws are not as strong for shear damage. So when the decking or roof are going side to side, screws are more likely to break than nails, but you'd have to have some pretty heavy winds for that to matter. If you don't have a miter saw, skill saw will work just fine. It's just going to take a lot longer. Aside from having a level making sure you have the right nails, lube for the nail guns, and a compressor. That's about all you need.